Hello everyone, I am the Lore Explorer, and this video will contain spoilers for Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye. And in today's loop, I want to talk about one of the hot topics of debate that stems from the DLC. When the Auks finally reach the Eye of the Universe, they use their staff to scan it, and upon doing so, they retrieve a vision from the Eye that seems to spell out certain disaster. They take this vision very literally and become terrified of the Eye of the Universe and what it's capable of. But in today's episode, I want to share my opinions about this vision, and I also want to touch on another interpretation I've seen in the community and why I'm not too convinced by it. But first, I think we should talk about the Auks technology that they use to scan the Eye, because we actually do have some experience with that staff ourselves during our time in the DLC. That means we have a bit of insight into how it works. The basics of it are actually pretty interesting. It must be able to use light to transfer information somehow, both receive it from the user through a scan of light, and then sending the information to a target for them to be able to have a vision. And, of course, the special green fire in the middle of it seems to be an instrumental piece to this process. So the staff scans the person using it, the fire lights, and the fire's light, it gets projected to the opposite side for someone to watch a vision of the user's thoughts. But what I think is interesting here, however, is whoever is being scanned is able to control what information they pass on to the recipient on the other end. In every use of these staffs, the person being scanned not only controls what's being shown, they're directly portraying their memories or whatever's in their mind. Doing so quite well even without prior knowledge on how to use the staff like when we did it. And in every scenario, we see there are two conscious beings in the process. And this may excite people since the Eye was scanned this way. But this only seems to be one angle of the staff's technology and its use. If we take a look at their telescopes, they seem to be functioning using the same technology and method. But instead of scanning themselves and using their consciousness to pass on information, it seems the telescope scans celestial objects and the user receives information. But just like with the staffs, they are looking at the light from the fire to receive that information somehow. This means the Auks not only use this scanning technology on living conscious beings retrieving their thoughts and so on to form a message, but they also use the same fire and light passing technology for their telescopes, which were obviously made to look at unconscious planets and space objects. And keep in mind, it's not a normal telescope. They aren't viewing the object directly, but again, viewing the directed light created by the base fire, just like with the staffs. So this must mean they are getting visions while receiving information from unconscious objects like planets as well, because really, how else would they get that information? We don't really know how that part works though. If they get a vision showing exactly what they asked to see, or if the staff just shows them the object in its entirety, or we don't know. But even so, I don't think that's too important right now. At this point, it's just good to get the staffs out of the way and know how they work. They use light to scan a being's mind or even an object. This sets a green fire light in the basin, and that green flame's light then gets collected and redirected to the other side of the staff to the user or target so they can get a vision. I saw a few people saying that the staffs worked only on things with consciousness, and so the Eye needed to be a conscious object for the scan to even work, but after what I said and going through all of that, I'm not so sure that's the case here. They were able to scan objects with the telescopes, which would definitely have to be aimed at unconscious objects, right? So I just wanted to clear that part up. It seems consciousness is not required. And so this actually brings us to the Eye. Keep in mind, we don't know if this is the conscious Eye showing the Auks what the Eye wanted to show them, or an unconscious Eye being scanned and the user receiving what it asked for, or something in between. We just really don't know at this point. Personally, I don't think the Eye is conscious. But in the real, we see an Auk take up one of their usual staffs, and they scan the Eye of the Universe with the light. The mystical green flame sparks to life and it does its magic. We see the light from the basin pass on the information it just received to a poor, unready Auk who then receives a vision. The vision shows the Alk standing in front of a large purple symbol of the Eye of the Universe, and as soon as the Alk touches the symbol, it starts to change from purple to a menacing red. The red spreads throughout the whole eye, and once it's overtaken the symbol in red, a brilliant white light flashes out from the center of the symbol. This white light explodes outwards, visibly consuming everything it touches. It instantly vaporizes the stranger and the entire nearby solar system in which the eye resides. The vision then zooms back onto the original Alk who touched the eye. They too have turned to ash, but interestingly, where planets and entire spaceships were completely turned to ashes, this Alk's skeleton remains intact and slowly falls at the feet of the eye. The vision continues on slowly as grass begins to take root and sprout from the remains of the brave Alk who first touched it. New life rebuilding from their ashes and skull. But that's where it ends, with grass having sprouted from the remains of the eye's observer. The Alk who saw this vision falls to their knees in terror, which quickly turns to a sort of rage. And soon after, they decide to construct a probe that will contain the eye's signal forever, essentially trapping it, to ensure that there was no chance that this vision will ever come to pass. Which means it seems the Alks took this vision quite literally. But were the Alks really in a good position to try to understand this vision they got from the eye? Their interpretation seemed pretty clear. If we interact with this object, it will cause great devastation and kill us all. And you know what? It's pretty understandable that they thought that. They were probably right to fear this. I think any species would probably be terrified if they received a similar message. But was that really what it meant? Many fans think so. They think it's pretty literal, and this vision serves to be a warning that if you interact with or observe the Eye of the Universe, it instantly destroys the entire current universe to make way for the new one. The vision clearly shows the Eye causing great destruction in this universe if you interact with it, and we know what the Eye is already. It's the facilitator of the next universe, and how could it create the next universe if this one was still here? So of course it makes sense if it would destroy the current one. Plus, the bit about the life growing back at the end on the skeleton, that clearly symbolized how the universe has ended and a new one's reborn afterwards. And don't get me wrong, that is a sound conclusion to come to. But something about that just doesn't sit right with me. Firstly, nothing in our experience prior to Echoes of the Eye made us think that the Eye of the Universe destroys the current universe, let alone anything really. In fact, the game goes out of its way to show us that the Eye is the universe's last hope at surviving in one form or another. Another thing I see that runs counter to that notion is we're shown that the current universe is dying naturally before anyone entangled with the Eye. Our sun is one of the last ones left, and we are told directly it's reaching the end of its natural life cycle. It's dying of natural causes. And supposedly, the Eye exists outside of time anyway, or time doesn't even exist there at all. So why would it have to instantly destroy the universe early when it could just metaphorically blink itself and the rest of time is naturally over? But really, my main objection to that is, if the devs wanted to depict the whole universe being destroyed, they could have easily done that. There was no reason to only show the nearby star system being destroyed, and no need to go out of their way with so much detail like our solar system with a nice set background of stars behind it. Yet none of these stars blink out or get affected by the explosion, and even after the grass grows back on the Alk, at the end of the vision, we can still see all the stars are twinkling strongly in the distance. I think they should have just zoomed out to show the whole universe, blinking out or something along those lines. I just don't think that's what they were trying to depict. But either way, think about this, and I think it's important now. Why would the devs ever spoil the ending of their mystery game by showing you the main mystery's central piece, showing us what it does, and painting it a killer? To me, it seems much more likely it's a symbolic message that we can't really understand until we've gone to the Eye of the Universe itself. And again, I'm not saying the above interpretation is wrong or even bad, it just doesn't vibe with me. As of now, here's what I think this vision from the Eye is. It's either the torch or the eye itself doing the best it can to symbolically convey what it is to the Aux, its mechanisms, what it called out for, what it's going to do, and how it works. I just think the Aux, or anyone else in the universe who could find it for that matter, isn't really up to the task of deciphering that message. Even the Nomai who have studied the eye a bit would be standing there scratching their heads after seeing that. How could anyone possibly understand it if it's trying to depict what the eye of the universe is? The only reason I think we can as players is because we've played the game before and mostly know what the eye is and how it works. So going through the vision, this is what I think we are seeing symbolized. The eye symbol is obvious. It represents the eye of the universe. And when the Auk touches it, it symbolically represents somebody observing with it or entangling the eye. And the eye slowly turning red could refer to the Auk entangling with it. I admit that one's a bit of a stretch, but I think the Auks were a fearful species at this point, and I imagine if the Auk became entangled and truly became one with the eye may just change a bit and symbolically turn red. Once the eye is red, a brilliant white light flashes out of it and consumes everything nearby. And anyone familiar with the ending should understand that this brilliant white light could definitely represent the beginning of the next universe. The Big Bang we see at the end of the game just looks too much like this to ignore. After this brilliant white light, it shows the Auk Observer, the Stranger, along with the nearby solar system all instantly getting destroyed. Anyone or things on them have been turned to dust and are surely dead. But to me, this isn't meant to be a direct warning of danger from the eye that tells us what will happen the second we entangle with it. It's just the eye trying to symbolize and let you know that everything we know and love is going to be gone after this event, that time will scatter them to dust, and we will be sacrificing it all for a whole new universe. It even strikes me as pretty similar to the scene inside the eye where we watch the whole universe fade away and get scattered to the cosmic winds. So in my eyes, it's not a threat that the eye will cause this event, but it's just to tell us that it will happen. The final scene is a close-up of an Auk dying and of their ashes sprouting new life, with a focus on the grass seeming to grow out of the skeleton's skull. I think just about everyone could agree on this one. This should represent the next universe being reborn from us and our memories. The species and universe that we gave life to by sacrificing our own as something to grow from, symbolized by the grass growing from the observer's remains. It all just matches up so well to me. Almost everything in that vision could somehow relate to something we see or do ourselves when at the eye of the universe. I'm not saying it's a one-for-one depiction, or that my interpretation is the only one that makes sense. I'm just saying this is how I read it, and this way it's all kind of poetic to me. And when you really think about it, that's kind of how the eye chooses to communicate with us when we are actually there, symbolically. The entire trip there, we were smacked in the face with symbolism. The instant we entangle with the eye, it brings us to the Harthian Museum, somewhere we gather all the knowledge we have as a species. This is, of course, to make us feel safe and at home, and a way to communicate with us, but when you really think about it, that museum to us is what the eye of the universe is to the rest of the universe. It's a museum. The eye collects every possibility in the universe and could put them on display for you. Plus, the one thing that brings our friends together inside the eye of the universe is the one thing that brought us all together outside of the eye. Our music, the thing that held us together as a group. And all of our friends that we meet within the eye are first marked by something that symbolizes that person. Chert with their love of astronomy, so they're represented by bongos that orbit 50 suns. Rebik loves Nomai runes, so to find them, we have to watch a building turn to runes and find their banjo. The one for Solemn may be the best with multiple layers of symbolism. To find her, we have to interact with a bunch of dead Nomai skeletons, all of whom move and start getting on each other's shoulders, to symbolize how our achievements have all been on the shoulders of these mighty dead giants that came before us. Then, her actual symbol, a Nomai shuttle and a flight amongst the stars, to symbolize her love for space exploration as a Nomai. The point is, the eye seems to use symbolism to communicate with the player many times, and I think this vision is just another example of that. Now, some may argue that every vision, aside from one, have been literal events. We see actual events that have already happened, like them hiding the real world codes or moving the prisoner's vault. We know they literally mean what they depict because we can go find them and see that they're true. But in every one of those examples, a conscious being made those visions and left them. We really have no idea how staffs work when scanning objects. It would make sense to me if the user prompted the staff with a question or something like that and got the information it wanted in return. So in this case, the ALC may have asked the staff, "What is this place?" And the staff did its best to depict the answer. Or, something to consider, if the user does prompt the staff, what if their feelings affect the outcome? We know that's how the staff interacts with people, thoughts and feelings. If they're scared, maybe the question slightly changes or the vision they get back changes a bit. I don't know. Like I said, nothing in the base game led us to believe the eye destroyed anything, and it's going to take more than one vision from a mystical, magical technology that we don't fully understand to convince me otherwise. I'll admit that one of the reasons I'm in the camp of the vision being a symbolic telling of what happens at the eye is because the eye seems like such a cool concept. It stays quiet until near the end of the universe until it calls out for one reason. It needs a conscious observer to entangle with it to continue the universal cycle. Which is important because life continuing on is important. Without life, literally everything is meaningless. But if that vision is accurate and an accurate depiction of what the eye would do and it would just explode in the universe right away when it's entangled with, it must also end so much life. Our universe would have been just lucky that it died of old age before we entangled with the eye and it destroyed everything, you know? So just imagine how many would have died if the ALCs actually entangled with it. The Nomai, us, probably other species. So to me, it would feel less like a savior and more like a killer. The eye would feel a bit tainted. I don't know. Either way, it's all hard to say and we can't really prove one way or the other. Almost no one is going to interpret these visions the same way. But let me know if you think it was accurately depicted in the comments below and why. That's just about all I have for everyone today. So if you agree with me and think the vision was symbolic of the eye's mechanics, subscribe to the channel. And if you disagreed with me and think it means something else, just go ahead and hit that big red button below that says subscribe. What? What? That means you have to subscribe either way? Ah, darn, that sucks. But I don't make the rules. So, of course, just leave a like if you enjoyed it. And as usual, a special thanks to the members here on the channel. As always, this is a lore explorer, thinking I may be diving deep into Unpopular Town with an unpopular opinion on this subject. But hopefully others agree, and I can convince even more by pointing out the symbolic connections between what we go through at the eye and that vision. But either way, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.